She stood outside the store with an empty cup, a tiny black girl shivering, scared but brave enough to whisper, "Sir, I promise to pay you when I grow up." The millionaire froze. He came for groceries but ended up finding the childhood he forgot and the kindness he lost. He followed her home. What he discovered inside that broken apartment would change every life in that community, all because one little girl believed in kindness, even when she had nothing. Welcome back to Hub Stories. I've truly missed you all. Thank you so much for staying with me. Your love and support mean everything. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring even more emotional, powerful, and life-changing stories. And trust me, you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's continue the story.
Sir, can I please have just one glass of milk?
I promise. I'll pay you when I grow up. Those words froze Ethan Cole in a way he had never experienced before. Not in his boardrooms. Not on the nights he closed million-dollar deals. And not even during the moments he stood in front of thousands of employees, giving powerful speeches. This tiny trembling voice changed everything. He turned sharply. Standing behind him was a little black girl, maybe 7 or 8, her hair tied with a worn-out pink ribbon, her dress faded from too many washes, patches stitched carefully by a mother who clearly did the best she could. Her shoes, the kind a toddler might wear, were too small and torn near the toes. Her feet peeked through when she shifted nervously. But what struck Ethan most wasn't her appearance. It was the empty plastic cup she held out with both hands. A cup that had probably been washed and reused hundreds of times. A cup that should have been holding juice or water on a warm day, but instead looked like a symbol of desperation. Her big brown eyes, full of fear and hope, stared right at him. Around them, the world kept moving. Cars rushing, people passing, voices shouting, music blaring from a nearby store. But somehow, everything went silent for Ethan. Because this little girl didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for candy. She didn't ask for a toy. She asked for milk. Milk for basic survival. He swallowed hard. "What did you say?" he asked gently. She stepped a little closer, clutching the cup to her chest. "Please, sir. Just one glass. My baby brother's crying. Mama says milk helps babies stop crying. I'll pay you when I grow up. I promise I will." Her voice wasn't begging. It was sincere, honest, almost businesslike, as though she believed this was a fair deal. Ethan felt something tightening in his chest. He couldn't remember the last time anyone had spoken to him without wanting something. In return, an investment, a favor, a loan, an opportunity. People always asked him for things, but rarely for something so basic. He knelt down slowly so he wouldn't tower over her. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered softly, "Ava." "That's a beautiful name." A slight smile lit her face, but it faded quickly when hunger reminded her why she was there. He noticed how she kept glancing at the convenience store behind them, its glass refrigerator, filled with milk cartons. He could see the reflection of her longing in the window. She wasn't thinking about the brand or flavor or size. Any milk would do. "Where are your parents?" Ethan asked. Ava bit her lip. "Mama's home with the baby. He cried all night. We don't have food today. She told me not to go outside alone. But my brother was hurting and Mama was crying and—" Her voice cracked and she wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed. "I can walk fast," she added, as if she needed to convince him she was responsible. Ethan's heart sank. He had seen poverty before. He had donated money. He had funded shelters and programs. But nothing compared to this moment. This child with an empty cup making a promise to pay when she grows up. "What does that mean?" Ethan asked softly. "What do you mean you'll pay me later?" Ava pointed proudly to a handmade bracelet tied around her wrist. "I don't have money. But Mama says when someone helps you, you should pay it back when you can. So when I'm big, I'll come find you and give you money." She said it with such seriousness that Ethan couldn't help but smile through the ache in his chest. A child shouldn't have to make promises like that. A child shouldn't have to worry about feeding a baby. A child shouldn't have to stand in the sun with an empty cup, hoping someone, anyone, would notice her. But here she was. "I see," Ethan said quietly. "And what if I don't need money?" Ava blinked, confused. "Then I can help you with something else. I can sweep or clean or carry things. His eyes stung. Behind her, a group of teenagers came out of the store laughing, holding sodas and chips. One brushed past Ava roughly without even looking at her. She stumbled a little but didn't complain. She only looked back at Ethan. "Please," she whispered. "My brother's so little. He needs milk." Those words pushed something deep inside. Ethan, something he had buried long ago. Memories of his own childhood, standing outside stores hungry, too proud to ask. Memories of people turning away. Memories of a mother crying quietly in the kitchen so her children wouldn't hear. A pulse of emotion ran through him. He rose to his feet. "Wait here, Ava," he said warmly. "I'll be right back." Her eyes widened. You're really going to help me?" "Yes," he said firmly. No child should ever worry about food. Her relief was instant, her shoulders dropping, her breath shaking, her eyes glassy with gratitude. And as Ethan stepped into the store to buy the milk, he didn't know it yet. But this simple request from a little girl would become the moment that changed everything in his life. Ethan walked out of the convenience store holding two large bags filled with milk, cartons, bread, bananas, cereal, apples, wipes, and a few warm snacks. He wasn't even sure why he bought so much. He just kept placing items into the cart as if something inside him refused to stop. Maybe it was anger at the world, maybe guilt, maybe compassion, or maybe the sight of a little girl clutching an empty cup had shattered the last piece of numbness inside him. When he stepped outside, Ava was standing exactly where he had left her, cup in hand, feet planted firmly, as if terrified he might come out and not see her. Her face brightened the moment their eyes met. "You came back," she whispered, almost in disbelief. Ethan felt a pull in his chest. "Of course I came back." He handed her one bag, but it was too heavy. She struggled, her small arms trembling. Without saying anything, he took it back and opened the top so she could peek inside. Ava gasped. Is all this for me?" "For your family," Ethan said softly. She gently touched the carton of milk like it was something precious, something magical. "This is the big one," she breathed. "Mama never buys the big one. It's too much money." Her innocence, the way she treated milk as if it were a luxury item, twisted Ethan's heart. He crouched down again, not out of pity, but out of respect. "Ava," he said gently, "why did you say you would pay me when you grow up?" Ava hesitated, then held out her wrist. Wrapped around it was a small handmade bracelet, plastic beads in mismatched colors, strung together with elastic thread. One bead was cracked. One was shaped like a tiny heart. "My mama made this," Ava said proudly. "She says even if we don't have money, we can still be good people. We can still be thankful. She says if someone helps you, you must help them back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But one day," she pointed to herself, "and I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay you when I grow up. I promise." There was no hesitation, no fear, no shame, just pure sincerity. Ethan swallowed hard. "You really mean that?" She nodded. "Yes, because you helped me. And Mama says you don't take things for free forever. You have to return kindness." She paused, thinking hard, "even if it takes a long time." The simplicity of her explanation, the straightforward morality, made Ethan feel something he hadn't felt in years: humility. A child from one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city was teaching him life values he had forgotten while climbing the ladder of wealth. Then, as if afraid he might misunderstand, she added quickly, "I don't have money now, but when I grow up, I'll give you money. Real money. I'll buy you something nice like..." She thought for a moment, face scrunched. "Like a sandwich. A big one, with cheese." Ethan laughed. A real warm laugh he hadn't heard from himself in a long time. "A sandwich, huh?" She nodded seriously. "Yes, a big one. Because big things cost more, and you bought me the big milk." Her logic was innocent, her gratitude pure, her heart enormous. He looked down at the bag in his hand. He had bought food for the family, but what she had given him this moment, this perspective, felt far more valuable. Suddenly a man exiting the store brushed past her, nearly knocking her backwards. She stumbled and the cup slipped from her hand, hitting the pavement and rolling away. The man didn't even look back. Ava hurried to retrieve the cup, brushing the dirt off it carefully. She inspected it, making sure it wasn't cracked. Ethan felt something inside him snap. No child should have to protect a plastic cup. No child should be treated like she's invisible, No child should stand outside a store and feel unworthy of being seen. He asked quietly, Ava, are you hungry too? She looked at the ground. It's okay. Mama says grown-ups should eat first when food is not enough, because they need to work. There it was again, that painful, twisted responsibility placed on a child who deserved none of it. Ethan opened one of the warm snack containers, chicken strips and fries. He placed it gently in her hands. For you, he said. She froze. She didn't reach for it. She didn't tear into it like a starving child. Instead, she looked up with wide, glistening eyes. Is it really okay? She whispered. Mama says not to take too much. She says taking too much makes people angry. The innocence of that fear made Ethan's chest burn. No one will be angry, he said softly. You deserve to eat. Only then did she slowly, carefully take a bite. Her shoulders relaxed for the first time. Her eyes closed. She sighed softly. It was the sound of relief, a sound no child should ever have to make while eating. Ethan knew then that this wasn't just a moment of charity. Something bigger was happening. A promise from a little girl had cracked open a part of him he'd locked away. And that promise, those small, trembling words, I'll pay you when I grow up, felt more powerful than anything he had received in all his years of wealth. This was the beginning of something that would change them both. Ava held the food bags against her chest like they were treasures that might disappear if she blinked too long. Her steps were tiny, careful, almost tiptoeing as if afraid the weight of kindness might slip through her fingers. Ethan watched her for a moment. A small girl, carrying big responsibilities, walking alone through a neighborhood she should have never been alone in. He couldn't let her go by herself. Ava, he called softly, is it all right if I walk with you? She paused mid-step. You want to come with me? She asked, surprised. Yes, Ethan replied. If that's okay with you. She nodded slowly, almost shyly. Okay, but it's a long walk. And the ground is dirty. Your nice shoes might get dusty. Her innocence tugged at him painfully. I don't mind the dust, he said. So they started walking. The world around them shifted as they moved deeper into the neighborhood. The tall buildings and busy streets faded behind them. In their place came narrow alleys, cracked sidewalks, and buildings whose paint peeled like tired old skin. Every few steps, Ava looked back to make sure Ethan was still there. She wasn't used to people caring enough to follow her. After a few minutes, Ethan tried gently. Do you always walk alone to get things for your family? Ava nodded as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Mama says I'm responsible. She says I help her a lot. She paused, then added, but I'm not supposed to go far. Today was special. Baby brother cried all night. Mama didn't sleep. She looked so tired. I didn't want her to walk. Ethan felt something crack inside him. A child shouldn't have to make decisions like that. They passed an abandoned playground where rusted swings squeaked with the wind. The slide was broken. A plastic bottle rolled across the dirt. Do you ever play here? Ethan asked. Ava shook her head. Kids here don't play much. The swings hurt your hands, and sometimes big boys smoke near the slide. Mama says to stay away. Her answer came not with sadness but acceptance, as if she had taught herself to stop expecting childhood. Every minute, Ethan's heart grew heavier. As they continued walking, a group of teenagers lounged near a corner store. They eyed Ethan's expensive suit and polished watch, whispering among themselves. Ava instinctively moved a little closer to him, like she was protecting him instead of the other way around. You okay? He asked quietly. Yes, they don't bother me. They only bother boys, she whispered matter-of-factly. He wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. After a turn, the narrow pathway led into a cramped courtyard. Laundry hung low on ropes stretched between windows. A broken shopping cart lay on its side. The air smelled faintly of dampness and old paint. Ava pointed at a brick building whose door barely hung on its hinges. That's where I live. They walked up the crooked steps carefully. The door creaked as Ava pushed it open. Inside, the hallway was dim, walls stained and chipped. A flickering bulb buzzed overhead. But Ava didn't seem bothered. She walked with the confidence of someone who had memorized every step and every crack. She stopped at a door and knocked softly. Mama, it's me. A tired voice answered, Come in, baby. Ava opened the door and Ethan followed quietly. What he saw next made him inhale sharply. The apartment was almost empty. A thin mattress pushed against a wall. A tiny crib with a baby crying softly. A half-broken fan turning with a weak whir. A small table with nothing on it. A woman, Ava's mother, sat on the floor beside the crib, gently rocking it with a shaky hand. Her hair was messy, her eyes red from exhaustion and worry. When she looked up and saw Ethan, confusion filled her face. "Ava, who is this man?" she asked quickly, alarm rising in her tone. Ava hurried to her, placing the milk and food on the table with pride. "Mama, he helped us!" "He bought milk and food, real food, and he's nice. He walked with me so I wouldn't be alone." Her mother pressed a hand to her mouth. "Oh God." Her eyes welled with tears, fear, shame, relief all fighting inside her. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said quickly. "I didn't know she went this far. She shouldn't bother strangers." "She didn't bother me," Ethan interrupted gently. "She reminded me of something important." Ava's mother stepped closer to him, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "You have no idea what this means," she whispered. "We had nothing. I didn't know how to feed them tonight." Ethan looked around. The cracked walls, the empty fridge he could see through the open kitchen door. The tiny baby trying to drink from an empty bottle. It hit him like a punch. This wasn't just poverty. This was survival. Ava hurried to her brother, pouring milk carefully into his bottle, just like she had watched her mother do 100 times. The baby latched onto it immediately, calming with each gulp. Ava smiled proudly. "See, Mama, I told you I could help." Her mother cried harder. Ethan stood still, watching this fragile scene, this small family fighting to stay afloat. He didn't know it yet, but following Ava home would become the decision that changed the rest of his life. For a long moment, Ethan stood in the doorway of the cramped apartment, unable to move. It wasn't the peeling paint or the broken fan or the old mattress on the floor that struck him. It was the silence, the kind of silence that comes from exhaustion, when a family is too tired to cry, too hungry to talk, too defeated to hope. Ava's mother gently rocked the baby, whispering soft prayers under her breath. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the blanket around him. She kept glancing at the milk as if afraid it might vanish. Ava sat proudly beside her brother, watching him drink, happiness glowing across her small face. And that sight, one baby drinking milk from a bottle he desperately needed, hit Ethan harder than any corporate failure he had ever faced. He stepped farther into the room, eyes scanning everything. The walls yellowed with time, a small window taped around the edges to keep out cold air, a single cooking pan on the stove. No toys, no decorations, no signs of comfort, just survival. He took a breath, feeling a knot rise in his throat. He had lived this life before, not exactly the same, but close enough to make his chest ache. Ava's mother spoke suddenly, breaking his thoughts. "Sir, thank you. I don't know how to say it properly." She looked away in embarrassment. "It's been hard. Really hard." Ethan nodded gently. "I understand." She shook her head. "No, sir. You're dressed so nice. You talk like someone important. You don't understand people like us." But he did, more than she could imagine. He slowly lowered himself onto the edge of the worn couch. It creaked under his weight. For a minute, he didn't speak. He just listened, the soft sucking sounds of the baby, the gentle hum of the broken fan. Then memories crashed over him like a wave. He saw himself as a little boy again, barefoot, skinny, holding a torn backpack. He saw his mother, exhausted, crying at the kitchen table when she thought he was asleep. He saw the neighbor who slammed the door in their faces when he asked for food. He saw the nights they ate nothing but plain bread, and he remembered the shame, the fear, the hunger. His hands clenched without meaning to. He whispered, almost to himself, "When I was a child, someone helped me too." Ava looked up, eyes bright with curiosity. "You were hungry too?" Ethan exhaled. "Yes, many times." Ava's mother watched him carefully, surprised. Ethan continued, voice low but steady. "My mother worked 3 jobs. She cleaned houses, washed dishes, delivered newspapers. But some days, even that wasn't enough." He paused, his eyes drifting toward the window. "I remember going to school without breakfast, pretending I wasn't hungry so my mother wouldn't worry." Ava shifted closer, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Her innocence made it easier to speak. "One night," Ethan said, "we had no food at all. My mother cried quietly. I didn't want her to feel alone, so I went door to door asking for help." Ava leaned in. "What happened?" Ethan blinked, his jaw tightening. "One man opened the door and told me to get lost. Another said, Go home, it's not my problem. Ava gasped softly. Her mother closed her eyes, heart hurting for a stranger. Ethan forced a small smile. But then one person gave me bread and soup. She didn't ask for anything. She just gave it, and I never forgot her. A silence fell again, heavier this time, but meaningful. Ava crawled closer to him. Is that why you helped me today? He looked at her. Those big brown eyes, filled with the same hunger, the same hope he once had. Yes, he said simply, because I know what it feels like to need help, and how it feels when no one sees you. Ava reached for his hand with her tiny fingers squeezing lightly. You saw me, she whispered. Her innocent words hit him harder than the memories. Yes, he saw her. And he saw something else too. His past. His pain. His forgotten humanity. Ava's mother cleared her throat gently. I didn't want her to ask anyone, she said softly. But I couldn't stop her. I was so scared. The baby's been crying nonstop. My milk dried up because I haven't eaten properly. Her voice broke. I don't want to fail them. Ethan's heart twisted so sharply he had to look away. Ava crawled into her mother's arms instantly. Mama, you didn't fail us. You try really hard. Her mother hugged her tightly, trying not to cry. Ethan watched the tender moment, the kind of love that existed even in the darkest conditions, and he felt something shift within him. A clarity, a conviction, a decision forming silently. He wasn't here by accident. He hadn't met Ava by chance. This moment, this family, was reminding him of the values he lost in the world of money and ambition. Ava whispered, Mama always says, one small kindness can save a whole day. Ethan nodded softly. One small kindness, he repeated. And sometimes it can save a whole life. And in that quiet, broken apartment, he realized helping them was no longer an option. It was a responsibility carved from his own past, a promise he didn't even know he needed to fulfill. Ethan stood slowly, as if a new weight, or perhaps a new purpose, had settled onto his shoulders. He looked around the tiny apartment one more time. The faded walls, the near-empty shelves, the tired but gentle eyes of Ava's mother, and the hopeful little girl clutching her baby sister close. He took a deep breath. Ava, he said quietly, would you like to show me more about where you live? Her face lit up instantly, as though someone had switched on a lamp inside her. Yes, come. I'll show you everything. She slipped her small hand into his, and without hesitation, Ethan allowed himself to be guided. They stepped outside into the hallway where the lights flickered weakly. The smell of dampness hung in the air. Ava pointed at the ceiling. That part leaks when it rains, she said honestly. Mom puts buckets there. Sometimes we don't sleep because the dripping is too loud. Ethan's brows pulled together. He remembered that sound. Drip, 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 the sound of poverty echoing through long nights. They descended the stairs, careful to skip the broken step that Ava had warned him about. Outside, the harsh afternoon, sun revealed a clearer picture, one much worse than he imagined. Kids played in the parking lot, dodging rusted metal poles and broken glass. A boy kicked a flat soccer ball. A little girl rode a bike with only one working wheel. Two teenagers shared a single bag of chips as if it were a feast. Ava tugged his sleeve. Over there, she pointed to a cracked corner wall. Sometimes rats come out, so Mommy tells me not to play outside. But I still do sometimes, when she's tired. Ethan looked around, his chest tightening. This wasn't just one struggling family. This was an entire community drowning, quietly. People doing their best but trapped by circumstances they didn't choose. He saw mothers carrying heavy grocery bags home from long shifts. A father fixing his old car with tools that barely worked. Elderly neighbors sitting outside because their rooms became too hot without proper air conditioning. How many people lived like this? How many children cried themselves to sleep because help never came? He had the money. He had the power. He had the resources. For years he used them only to build his empire, but now looking into the eyes of these families, he felt a fire rise within him, something he hadn't felt since he was a hungry little boy knocking on that neighbor's door. A responsibility? Ava tugged him again. Sir, are you sad? He looked down and forced a smile. No, sweetheart. I'm thinking very hard. She nodded as if she understood everything. In a way, she did. Children understood more than adults believed. When they finally returned to the apartment, Ava's mother was standing near the doorway, worry filling her face. She had clearly been wondering what they were doing. Ethan walked in with a calmness he didn't feel. This moment mattered. He knelt down in front of her so they were eye level, a gesture of respect he rarely gave anyone. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I want to help. Not just for today, but for good." Her eyes widened. "Sir, why us?" she whispered. "You don't even know us." Ethan inhaled slowly, choosing his words with care. "Because everyone deserves a chance, especially families who are trying their hardest." She blinked rapidly, stunned. Ava, still clutching her baby sister, looked between them with sparkly eyes. "Does this mean more milk?" she asked hopefully. Ethan laughed, a real laugh, full and warm, surprising even himself. "Yes," he said, touching her shoulder gently. "A lot more. And more than that." He reached into his coat pocket and took out a sleek card, a direct number to his office, one even his business partners rarely received. He placed it carefully on the table. "I own several businesses across the city," he explained. "Restaurants, stores, cleaning companies, logistics teams. I want to offer you a job, one that pays well, with full benefits and childcare support." Ava's mother covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "A job?" she whispered. But I haven't worked in so long. I don't have skills. I don't deserve—" Ethan raised a hand gently. "You do deserve it. You're raising 2 children on your own. You're strong. You're capable. And all you need is a chance." Her knees buckled slightly, and she sat on the edge of the bed, tears flowing freely. I don't know how to thank you," she choked out. Ethan looked at Ava, this tiny girl who had fearlessly asked him for milk with absolute faith and goodness. "You already did," he said softly. "How?" Ava asked. He smiled. "With your promise." Ava tilted her head. "My promise to pay you back one day?" "No," Ethan said, shaking his head gently. "Your promise to help someone else when you grow up." Ava's mother cried harder, not from sadness but from relief. Ethan quietly placed an envelope on the table. "What's that?" she whispered. "Enough money," he said, "to cover food, medicine, and anything else your girls need while you get back on your feet." She sobbed into her hands. And Ethan realized this was the first time in years he felt truly alive. Weeks slipped by, each one bringing more change than the last. Good change. The kind that grows quietly at first and then blooms into something beautiful. Ava's mother started her new job at one of Ethan's companies. The first few days she walked in nervously, clutching her bag tightly, afraid she might fail or embarrass herself. But she didn't. She worked harder than anyone expected, arriving early, staying late, learning quickly, and never once complaining. People admired her gentle determination. They whispered things like, "She's really something. She's dedicated. She's been through so much," and still smiles. Slowly she began to find her rhythm, her confidence, and, maybe for the first time in years, her hope. Meanwhile, Ethan kept his promise too. He funded repairs for the building Ava lived in. Broken windows were replaced with new ones. Leaking ceilings were patched up. Walls got fresh paint. The mold was cleaned out. The stairways finally had proper lighting. For the kids, he did something bigger. He built a proper playground in the empty lot behind the apartments, a safe space with swings, a slide, a little climbing wall, even a soft turf so the children wouldn't get hurt if they fell. When it opened, the neighborhood kids screamed with joy, running and laughing until sunset. Parents watched with tears in their eyes. For the first time, their children had somewhere safe to play, and he didn't stop there. Ethan set up a small community food program. Every week, families could pick up fresh groceries, milk, bread, fruits, vegetables, no questions asked. No more skipping meals. No more worrying about what their children would eat next. For the community, it felt like a miracle. For Ethan, it felt like giving back what he was once denied. But out of everything he did, every project, every donation, there was one moment that touched him more deeply than all the rest. It happened on a bright sunny afternoon. Ethan was in his office reviewing reports when he heard a small knock on the door. The knock was soft, gentle, familiar. He looked up. Ava stood there, her hair tied in 2 neat braids, her smile bright as the sun. She looked confident, proud, almost grown compared to the frightened little girl he first met outside the grocery store. "Mr. Ethan," she said, trying to sound very serious, "I'm paying you back today." He raised an eyebrow, amused. "Oh, and what do you have there?" Ava hid something behind her back, rocking on her toes with excitement. "Close your eyes," she said. Ethan chuckled. "Are you sure?" "Yes, close them." He obeyed. He heard her step closer, the soft padding of her shoes on the carpet. Then warm, tiny fingers gently wrapped something around his wrist. "Okay," she whispered. "You can look now." When Ethan opened his eyes, he froze. On his wrist was a tiny handmade bracelet, mismatched beads, a slightly uneven knot, and a little charm shaped like a heart. It was imperfect, but somehow more beautiful than the expensive watches in his collection. "I made it myself," Ava said proudly, her chin lifted. "It's not money yet, but Mama says you should always return kindness. And when I grow up," she paused, her voice glowing with purpose, "I'll help kids too." Ethan felt something shift inside him, a warmth rising in his chest. His throat tightened. This little girl, this child who once stood before him with an empty cup in trembling hands, was now offering him the purest gift he had ever received. Slowly, reverently, he traced the bracelet with his fingers. "That," he said softly, "is the greatest payment anyone has ever given me." Ava grinned so widely her eyes nearly disappeared. "It means you're my hero," she added shyly. But Ethan shook his head gently. "No, Ava. You're mine." A staff member happened to pass by and snapped a photo of the moment. Ava proudly holding Ethan's wrist, her handmade bracelet gleaming in the sunlight. That picture spread like wildfire. People across the world shared it, wrote about it, cried over it. The comments poured in. A millionaire changed a child's life because she asked. She didn't give money. She gave love. This story proves kindness is a cycle. Sometimes the smallest act changes everything. And they were right. Because the little girl who once walked up to Ethan with an empty cup didn't just ask for milk. She awakened a millionaire's heart. She rebuilt her family's life. She revived a struggling community. And she reminded millions of people that kindness is more powerful than money, status, or success. Ava didn't just make a promise. She inspired the world.